We're investigating restoring nearshore habitat, specifically eelgrass. It's an underwater marine plant that serves a function much like a meadow does on land. So it offers refugia for young fish just coming out of freshwater streams, and it offers an increased metabolic growth. So, for example, the Chinook who come into estuaries need to become much more robust than when they first came out of the freshwater system in 4 months to go into the marine deeper waters. And if they don't gain that weight and that robustness, oftentimes found in eelgrass beds, because all the kitchen, if you will, the food that supplies that metabolic growth is available, plus they're sheltered from predators. If they don't receive that shelter and that refugia, then they oftentimes don't survive in the deeper waters. Fortunately, Pacific Salmon Foundation was very open in its funding options for us. So we were able to map with other leveraged funding all the eelgrass in the Islands Trust area. So that's 13 islands within the Salish Sea. And that was important for this particular project because we could see where the gaps were, where there should be eelgrass. And when you spoke to First Nations people or people in the community who had been there for a long time and been fishing, we would realize there's a gap and we should explore restoring that. And what we found is that many of the gaps in the Salish Sea, to no surprise, is caused by log boom history. So where the log storage has historically been in estuaries and quiet bays are the most impacted underwater environments. What logs do when they're placed on the surface of marine waters is that they shade what vegetation there is under there, and if they're kept there for long periods of time, the log debris, the little pieces of wood debris that comes down from the logs, actually changes the sediment underneath it, chemically, physically, and biologically. If it's there for long periods of time, which many of these log booms were, they're permanently damaged for hundreds of years. Nobody has acknowledged that damage. Nobody is looking at that because it's invisible. So our task is to look at how that has impacted juvenile salmon and to try to at least begin to restore small plots. If they succeed over time, then we expand on them. And the Pacific Salmon Foundation has been a huge help because it's continuous funding. We leverage money from other places, but that core funding has allowed us for the last 3 years to not only map what's there, but try to restore what should be there and isn't. And so the question is, how do we map what's there? What kind of eelgrass habitat is there? And there's several ways that we can do that. And the best on-the-ground way is with an underwater camera, a Trimble GPS unit, a good boat that can go close to shore, and mappers that are very well equipped, not only to navigate in shallow waters, there are a lot of rocks, but also to note different kinds of aspects or qualities of the eelgrass bed that they're looking at. So is it patchy? Is it fringing? Is it, what does it look like? And so we kind of quantify and qualify the habitat that we're looking at. Because of the Pacific Salmon Foundation, we were able to bring groups of people who are also interested in bulk kelp restoration and mapping, and eelgrass mapping on a much larger scale, a remote sensing or satellite imagery, and forage fish. So we brought all those folks together, about 40 of them, and we're starting to talk to each other just like this project is just, as was just expressed, this exchange of ideas is now including all these species that are all connected, because if you have sand lands, for example, in shallow waters, then you know that the salmon are going to be well supplied with food.